What is going on, everybody? Jonathan Farrell, branch manager of the Two Mortgage Guys in Temecula, California, and I have the esteemed privilege and pleasure to have my past clients, the first past clients on our podcast. By the way, that's a first for our podcast. But I have Mr. Jonah Lopp and Miss Mary Lopp. How are you?
Good.
I'm doing good.
Good. Now we're good because we got the house, right?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Perfect. So the reason why I have you guys on, and I appreciate that, this was a big favor to me, was, we always talk about the lending side, right? On our podcast, we talk about the lending side, we talk about the real estate side, but we never really dive into the homeowner side, what it actually takes, what the stress level's like, going through the process, because it is a very stressful process.
Definitely.
So, for somebody who's looking to buy in the next, let's just say six months, like it's good to set that sort of expectation.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back into a little bit of our backstory because we connected through an agent friend of mine, Noah, who's an awesome agent in Temecula. Noah Thomason. Can I give a shout? Noah Thomason, Exit Alliance Realty. But so we connected through him 4 years ago.
Yes.
So we'll kind of go back into that backstory a little bit. But so 4 years ago, I get a phone call from you guys, and let's kind of walk through that then, because I want to know about the pre-approval process. I want to know about, the different process. And, 4 years, not typical, but it does happen. So if you don't mind giving me your take on what happened 4 years ago.
Yeah, so we wanted to buy a house.
Yeah.
Southern California. I had the big dream.
Yep.
Right.
Called you and sent over our bank information, our pay stubs, and you said your debt is too high to your
Right.
income
I
ratio.
remember that.
Yeah, that was a hard moment.
Right.
We knew it, but we still were hoping we
To
could get.
hear
Yeah.
it. Was
Yeah, that was different. And then 2 years later, I got a new job. I had just graduated with my graduate degree, so I was able to become an adjunct faculty member at multiple colleges.
Perfect.
So now our income was increasing. So again, I thought, okay, yes, we
Now's
can
the
finally
time
buy.
we can buy.
And I call you.
And then I
and
give you bad news again.
Bad news, because of the type of job that I have.
Right.
I need to show 2 years of consistent work.
Right. And to kind of go into that too, because you're contracted out,
Yeah.
right? It's not typical, like you're not like on salary. It's not necessarily that it's not guaranteed income, but it's not like, hey, you are definitely going to be, there's no definitive answer for you to continue. So again, I know I gave you guys some bad news then, but ultimately it worked out. Because
2 years later.
2 years
I know, here we
later.
are.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
2 years later brought us to January of this year.
Right.
I think I contacted you in December of 2019.
Yep.
Just to kind of fill out and see where we're at. So I sent you asked me to send you our W-2s,
Mhm.
our tax for the previous year, right?
Right.
And then our bank statements and all of our pay stubs.
Right.
And then
Pay stubs for 4 different jobs.
yeah, 4 different jobs for me, and then one
Right.
different job, one job for
Yep.
him.
Right.
And it was funny because 4 years led us to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was already expecting you to say, okay, this is what I need you to work on.
Right.
Because that's what I said to you. I said, just tell me what we need to
Just
work
tell me
on.
what we need to work on. I'm
And
like, oh,
it
wait.
was come in and you're ready.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was, what?
Yeah. It was surprising.
Right.
Yeah, that was,
It was.
I
It
was
was
like, no, really,
it
what
was
do
a
we
little
have
different
to do?
than the previous 2
Yeah,
years. Yeah.
4 years.
4 years. Yeah, really. Exactly. So building up to that moment. But again, you guys put in a lot of hard work to get there. Tackling different things with, debt to income ratio, getting a lot more pay. You graduated with what? PhD,
Master's.
right? Master's degree. So, come on, like getting to that point, it was a big build up.
Yeah.
And then, of course, with your job too, you're grinding it out with overtime and everything else too. So, there was a big buildup to get to this point. And then, all right, now here's your pre-approval. We're good to look, right? So,
It was funny because when you gave us the pre-approval, it sounded so easy.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Now here's your pre-approval.
Yeah.
There you go.
Because I remember we were sitting in your office here, and I asked you, well, when can we start looking? You said right now.
Go for it.
I was like, what? It
Yeah.
was just,
I wish I had the Staples button, like the
Yeah.
No, so and again, there was a lot of hard work building up to that point, but ultimately, then we got you to the point of looking, right? So then I gave you the pre-approval letter. You guys start looking with Noah as far as like, okay, here's the houses. So
in our price range.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, when I qualify people, what I do is I qualify people on the basis of comfortability, right? That's kind of the one thing that we talked about. We want to make sure that you guys are going to be comfortable with that monthly payment, not just go for maximum, basically.
And that was really nice for us that even throughout the whole journey with you, you always asked us, "Are you comfortable with that?"
Yeah,
Right.
That's important.
Regardless of what we were talking about, and that was nice that it wasn't about money. In a business about money, but
Right.
it was, are you comfortable? Is that something that you're going to be able to be happy doing? Because that was one of my concerns was we wanted a house so bad,
Right.
We wanted to buy a house, and because it took us so long to get there, and I didn't want to be so desperate for a house
Right.
that we were getting into a situation where we couldn't enjoy it.
Right.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that was, you know, and you know, we talk about this. I talk about this with every single one of my clients too, because ultimately the computer and I might say, "Oh yeah, your maximum is here," but I'm not the one making that payment.
Yeah.
You guys are the one that's making that payment. So, you know, again, that's how we qualify here is not just, "Oh yeah, go for it," you know, 3,500. Well, 3,500's not necessarily in the question, right? So, but I mean, ultimately, then I give you the pre-approval letter. How many houses did you look at
Before we found the one,
before you found the one?
Maybe like 15?
something around
Something,
there,
I think
yeah.
15.
But
Yeah.
only over the matter of like 3 weeks.
Right.
Mhm,
It wasn't very
that-
long,
Yeah,
2 or 3 weeks.
yeah. And that
And then
was,
you found the dream home.
We did. I mean, every house that I saw, I was like, yes, this one. Let's do this one. I just
Joe was
wanted
like,
to
"I'm
move
going-
and
I'm
have
getting
our own
this house."
house. I was like, let me get this one. But, you know, it's not just
No.
me making the decision.
No.
So, yeah.
I know how that is. No, so, but I mean, ultimately too, you know, like there's so many different things to look at in a house, right? You know, you got the kitchen, you got the backyard, you got the area, you know, price too. You know, you get price and monthly payment. And I remember I was giving you guys some monthly payments where it's like, "Oh no, that's way too high."
Yeah.
And then this one, just the one that we happened to get was like, "Oh nope, that'll work." So. And then we enter contract.
Oh my goodness. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun dun dun.
That was
Now
the
the real
stressful
work
part.
begins.
Yep.
Right. And I remember you telling me, because like I called Mary and I was like, "Yeah, we're in contract. Like, yeah, you ready?" And she's like, "I'm not gonna get excited until I get the keys."
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, okay, that's a good way of going about it. But
Pessimistic way. that
right.
is.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a good way about going about it. But I mean, you know, there ultimately like the two most hardest times in a person's life is buying a house and having a kid, right? And I know you just
We've done
recently-
both.
you've
Yeah,
done
we've
both.
done both now.
So, you know, we've gone through the hard part, but, you know, I'm asking, we go into contract. I'm asking for updated bank statements. I'm asking, okay, what's this deposit? I'm asking, what's this?
Yes.
So, you know, it's not just okay, yeah, now we're in contract. Now let the happy times begin. It's more like, okay, now the real
Real
work
work.
Yeah,
is going to
exactly.
begin, right?
And a lot of times you were using language that I had no idea what you were talking
Yeah,
about.
that's me.
So you were saying,
Stuff.
but it's language within the field that we're just not
Right.
privy to, right? So when you say like we're in contract, okay,
Great.
that sounds
Did we
great.
get
Cool.
the house? Like,
Yeah,
when did we
yeah.
get the keys, you know?
You know, and even the term escrow.
Right.
Like,
Nothing
what
know
does that
escrow
even
is.
mean?
So I will tell you. So the funny thing, because my wife's a nurse, right? And I think we might have talked about that too. Like she'll say stuff like, "Oh yeah, I did the full cornea, like microablation." I'm like, "Yeah, great." Like I have no idea what that means, right? And that's how like I tend to talk to people expecting, and this is my biggest fault, like within this industry, is like I tend to talk to people as if you know exactly what contract and escrows and
that stuff.
EMD and LOE and all this other stuff, letter of explanation and earnest money deposit.
The earnest money, yeah. I
Yeah.
kept thinking, what is earnest
one.
money? I'm not
Yeah.
earnest to give
Right.
this money. I don't get.
I don't want to give you money.
Yeah, why it's called earnest money.
So, but you know, it's going through that whole process, and then you know, and again, like I remember you would call me and be like, "Hey, I haven't heard from you in a day," and be like, well, "That's typically a good thing."
Yeah, you told me that.
like,
Yeah.
like you know, I mean, we're not typically contacting like every client every single day, but I mean, you know, we're contacting you like, "Hey, I need this," you know. But I mean, then you know, we go through the process, get the appraisal. That was good. You know, value came in
Higher.
Higher,
Than,
yeah. That
so
was
walking
real
in with
nice.
equity,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that was
then
great.
and then solar, you know, that was a whole process.
Let's not talk about solar.
We're not gonna talk about
Yeah.
solar.
Too
but,
soon.
Yeah, but you know, ultimately, like finding the house is the first part, right? Getting the house is something that's completely different, right? And ultimately, it's my job to communicate to you guys like how this is going to happen, right? So here's what's expected, and like going through different steps, right? Because it's very stressful, and like I know that you guys can attest to that too. Like there was a period of time where we went back to like renegotiate with the sellers
In
right?
the middle of escrow.
In the middle of
towards
escrow.
the end of
Yeah.
escrow, yes.
So-
Which I didn't know was possible.
No,
Yeah, we had no
exactly.
clue.
Like it's there's a whole bunch of different, and of course on your transaction it was kind of like just a domino effect of different things,
Yeah.
right? But obviously you guys went through a big process, right? And then this is everybody else that's going through a big process too. So I mean, I know from one standpoint on this side how that goes, but can you just kind of convey like how that goes from the home buyer standpoint? I know it could be very stressful, so can you kind of give us a little bit of insight to that?
Just being new to the whole experience, like
Yeah.
she was saying, just the terminology, there's a lot of moving parts that are going on, and I need this paperwork now,
Yeah.
and I got to do this and that, and it's kind of overwhelming,
Yeah.
at first. And I would tell her all the time, just let him do his thing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't bother him. Like, if you haven't heard from him, that's probably a good thing. That should be on the phone.
Right.
I'm like, just let him be.
No,
But
I texted more than I
was
actually
text.
called.
probably, yeah.
There was a text at 10 at
Yeah.
night, but that's okay.
It was a necessary text.
It was a
at
necessary
10.
text. Yeah, because I told you your loan got approved at
Yes.
10.
Exactly.
We
That
were
was the good
harassing
one.
the underwriter.
Right. But and the funny thing too, I'm going to go into that too because there's so many different pieces in the back end of it, right? There's 50 people that work on one transaction, like between escrow, the agents, process. I know you guys have met my processors now, and then like Tyler, Tyler did a big part of that transaction too. And then you got the people at corporate, so you got underwriting, you got the lock desk, you got. Who else? The funder. You got the doc draw department. Like, there's so many different
And
pieces.
the sellers.
And the sellers.
Yeah.
Yes, they're kind of important too.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, ultimately, it's really funny because like, I know that most of the time you're communicating through me, right? Like,
Yes.
I'm kind of like that.
You and Noah.
Me and Noah. But then I'm communicating with XYZ, all these people in the background too. So like that part can also be a little bit frustrating because I'm trying to get information for you guys, and I know that you guys were awesome too because you did let me like.
Did I?
Yeah, you did. Trust me. Like you let me handle what it needs, and I appreciate that too because I've had some people like. You were not bad at all.
Oh my
I'm just
goodness.
saying.
Okay, because I felt crazy.
No,
like
I've literally had people like, hey, can I come into your office and wait here? I'm like, no,
It's not
like
gonna
they're
happen.
not here. So, but no, I really appreciate you guys. I know we went through the whole process too, and ultimately it ended up, it was a long process.
it was a very long process.
But I mean, the end goal hopefully is definitely worth
It's
it
worth
too.
it, yeah.
It was.
So, because you have your son and daughter too, so now you have the house
And
for
we have a
them.
home.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're home.
Home for them, yeah.
Yeah.
You got a nice
Good feeling.
backyard.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, it was just it was frustrating because I didn't know how many hands were on deck kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so when I text you and ask you a question and then I don't hear back from you for a few hours, I'm just thinking that you don't have the time, you're busy versus you have to ask other
Different.
people for that answer.
Right.
And so I didn't really understand that till way further into the process of escrow that, John isn't the only one I'm dealing with.
Right.
That John's dealing with
I'm the
this whole,
face.
yeah, this whole like crew of people.
Right.
And so I guess I wish I would have known that earlier on, and it would have helped me feel more relaxed because I was always on edge. If I didn't hear back from John about something important, okay, that means it must have been denied.
Right.
Or okay, it means something negative happened versus no, John just isn't the one who has the answer. He's going to the person who has the answer
Find the answer.
and
To
is
get it.
waiting for that answer.
Right.
So I wish I would have known that more people were involved.
Well, and
in
that's
the whole
something too.
process.
I mean, like, again, we're talking about it now, but I also never thought like, oh, I should be conveying to X, Y, and Z, like say, hey, this is the process too. But, ultimately it's like, there's a lot of teamwork between buyer, like, you guys,
Yeah.
myself, and then like everybody else. Like it's kind of crazy. Like when you take a look at it, like all the different hands that like come together to to make one thing. Between like all the different parties and in the sellers too. Like the sellers had a lot to do with with our offer, obviously. Even
And with
like the
messing up
listing
escrow.
agent, they did, yes,
They did.
but we'll forgive them.
We got that.
We got the
Back
house.
in
So,
bed.
but ultimately, like, again, there's the process of going through it. Now you guys have completed that, and now we got the house. So, and I say we, I always include myself.
You
We
got
But
we
you were
got the
well
house.
invested into it, so
Yeah,
I
right.
do
It's a
feel
we.
it's a team effort.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we're paying the mortgage, but
Right.
if you want to help, it could be a we.
Yeah, we could do.
Are you comfortable with the
I'm,
payment?
I'm not comfortable with that.
No,
payment.
All right.
No, but yeah, I mean, again, I really appreciate you guys. I know it was a good process, you know, going through it. Ultimately, we got the house. Everything's getting moved in and starting the home ownership now, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, how long, if you don't mind me asking, like, how long were you renting for before that?
Almost 3.
Well, since
in total.
we've never owned, so
No,
we
yeah,
rented
that's
our whole
true.
life.
That's true. I'm thinking of the house.
We've been married 6 years,
Right.
so we've been renting together for 6 years.
And I mean, was home ownership always the part like that you guys had talked about? Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was always in
definitely.
our future. I mean,
Yeah.
4 years ago, we had only been married for 2 years
Right.
when we were
when we first talking
really
about
trying to get into a home.
it, right?
So it's always been a part or a goal that we've set in front of us, especially in Southern California. It's difficult.
Right.
It
could be very difficult,
expensive
right?
out here, right? And so being able to actually do that in Southern California is huge
Right.
for us.
Yeah.
And be able to raise our kids in the home. I mean, it's definitely worth it. I just wish that we would have, or at least I would have had more knowledge of the process.
Mhm.
It would have given me just a bit more peace.
Right.
And one of the things that I didn't understand were underwriters. That
Right.
term kept getting thrown at me. Underwriters.
Like, what's
underwriters.
that?
What is an underwriter? They write under what?
Right.
Right? Like,
I always think Undertaker.
like Undertaker.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe explaining what an underwriter.
Oh no, for sure.
Yes.
Like, and that's, it's funny because again, like when you like, I always think of like loan lingo, right?
Yeah.
So like the underwriter is the final decision maker. Like I'm the loan originator. I'm the one that's bringing the loan in, doing my due diligence, making sure that you guys qualify. And the underwriter is like, I'm looking at this from the standpoint of FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, making sure they will buy the loan or insure
okay.
the loan. So, it's really funny because we loosely throw around the term the underwriter, but they're ultimately the end all. Like, I mean, granted, you see a lot of green, so that's good on this screen here. Like that, that means approved. Like we rarely have a loan that does, go through the process and obtains a denial, but that's just because of the work that gets done up front, right?
And I remember you saying that because I specifically asked you because I didn't want to get my hopes up. Was
Right.
how often do you pre-approve someone and they don't get approved from the underwriter?
Right.
And you gave me a percentage. I can't remember. It was
Like one.
Yeah, I think that's what you said.
Like 1%.
Yeah.
I've had one person that like changed that, like basically quit their job
Oh, okay.
middle transaction. Now they have no income.
Yeah,
so,
that's not good.
but I mean, ultimately, like we do we try and do like a lot of the work up front to make it easy for our underwriters because I always tell people that like a loan is like a story, right? So I'm the author. Or I'm like, you guys are my subjects of the book.
Or like the
Of the
characters.
characters. You're even characters of the book, and I have to be the one to say, hey, Mr. Bank, hey, Miss Underwriter, here's why these people can get approved for this loan, right? And so ultimately, there's a lot of subject matter in that too. We're talking about like credit. We're talking about credit, assets, income, like stability of income. So that's why there's the the whole 2-year contract thing. But like it's kind of funny, like when you actually take a look at that, for some reason that's always stuck with me. Like I'm telling this person's story to get them a house, right? So when you take a look at it, it's conveying that to a bank, like, yes, this is the reason why this person qualifies.
So like the financial story.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we close, and then the book closed.
Yeah,
So-
no, that's a good way to put it.
Right.
Yeah.
So and again too, like when I'm done with your loan, I hate to say it, but I know where you eat, I know where you sleep, I know.
Yeah, I have to say that, and I told him it feels like such an invasion of privacy.
Yeah.
I mean, the constant, okay, where did you get this money from?
Yep.
Okay, you have to show me where you got this money
Yep.
from. Okay, where's the money going to? Okay, why is it going there? Oh my gosh, the underwriter saw there was a big deposit.
What
Where
is
did
the
that come
deposit?
from?
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, not only was it stressful because it's just a lot of work, or we're still working and trying to get you these documents as soon as possible so we can stay on track with escrow, but also feeling like they know my entire life.
Yep.
I mean,
We
finance
know
is
your
such a
entire
private
credit
thing.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is really, I mean, the fact of the matter is that's ultimately what it is. It's like a bank looking at your ability to repay, like but your ability to repay is Okay, where you're spending your money.
Yeah.
What's
Exactly.
this money coming in?
Credit cards,
Your
right?
How much credit card debt? And it's kind of like I completely agree with you on that one. Like my biggest constant fight has been, why do I have to go back to this person and say, hey, what's this deposit? You know, like if they have income, like we're not using that deposit. But I mean, ultimately, the bummer too is that it's like a government guideline. Like we're technically required to document that because of what happened in 2008. Yeah. So the sins of the few affect the many, unfortunately.
That's true.
But you know, then again, now I have to come to you and be like, hey,
They're asking for
they're
this.
asking for this.
And
Now.
I need it now.
I need it
Right
now.
now.
Otherwise,
Yeah, this isn't gonna happen.
yeah.
So
But you know, again, it's a very stressful process. I mean, you guys, you know that too. So, you know, the hope for this podcast is to be able to convey an expectation for somebody
Yeah.
moving forward, right? Because I mean, we got like almost 30 loans in the pipeline, and imagine 30 of
Wow.
people like
Yeah.
you going through
The process.
the process. So, you know, again, if we can convey that expectation as far as like, yes, this is the process, this is what is going to be expected of you. If there's a deposit, if there's this, like I need to be able to do that.
Explain, yeah, you have to explain everything.
But it's also kind of funny too, because like a lot of things that we have talked about, again, I know it here,
Yeah.
but then to be able to, you know, have you guys come and say, okay, like why, like what is needed, like, you know,
And why? My thing was always
Yeah,
why.
why?
Why
Right.
do I have to show that? Why?
Right.
I always get angry. I don't get it.
But you know, and again too, like there's a lot of different things that factor into a loan decision, right? We try and do as much due diligence up front so that way you didn't come to me 2 years ago and your loan got denied.
Yeah.
You know, I have a lot of people right now where it's, hey, let's work on just this one thing, and that's going to be able to get you here. Like there's an end goal in sight. Fortunately, we hit that end goal with you guys, right?
Yeah,
It
we
took
did.
4 years to do that,
Yeah.
but it's kind of a cool story. Like when you take a look back at all of that, because you know we came in with the plan changed a couple times,
Yeah.
and now ultimately it's all done. So, but yeah, I mean, I appreciate you guys. You know, like seriously, like. To have you guys here makes me very happy because, you know, we went through the process. There's a lot of different things that, you know, that we did and accomplished together. And ultimately it got you guys into your first home.
Yeah.
So again, I really appreciate
And one
you
that we
guys.
wanted.
Yeah.
Versus-
That's the most important
Versus
thing.
settling. And
Yeah.
that's what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to settle for something. But I have to say, one of the things I really appreciate, and I didn't realize that you did, and I don't know if all lenders offer it, where we would see a house we liked, Noah would then call you, and then you would work up a sheet of what,
Yeah.
including the
Right,
taxes
right.
of
A
the
good
area.
loan officer is supposed to do that.
Okay.
But I don't know if all of them do.
What is
Yeah.
that sheet called that
It's
you?
a fees worksheet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was really helpful because we got to see what our actual monthly payment would be.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, so to piggyback off of that, the reason why I do that is I don't want you guys to get into escrow expecting for a monthly payment to be this, and then it's $300, $400 more. I have had multiple clients that I don't want to say have stolen them, but who were unhappy with the level of service that they were getting from somebody else.
Oh.
And specifically because monthly payments were not shown to them, or cash to close wasn't showed to them, or they got into escrow and now there's, you know, the loan officer saying, okay, where's your $10,000? Like we didn't have that from the beginning. Why are we even in contract?
Yeah.
You know, so, and again, it's not everybody, trust me. Like there's some awesome loan officers that are out there for different companies, but that's like one of the things that I stress because I always think of, if I was buying this house, what are the questions that I would want to know? Monthly payment, cash to close here. And for me, I'm visual,
Yeah.
right? So I have to see it on a worksheet. If I'm just talking numbers, I'm just talking numbers, right? So that's kind of the one of the things, like, you know, and Noah knows that too. That's why he and I really connected. It was just because like, nope, this is the level of service that I expect. And this is the level of service that I expect to give to you. So, you know, ultimately that makes a pretty good partnership too.
Yeah, and we really appreciated that because there's so many things currently that you think you sign up for something and all of a sudden you get your first bill
Right.
and it's
It's
$20
totally
more
different.
Yeah.
than what they told you. And that's something I did not want to happen because once escrow closes, the house is
Right.
ours. And then we get our first mortgage payment and it's $500
That's it.
more.
Yeah.
What do you do?
And not to, and again, not to bash different companies that are out there, but I've had people that have gone with other, like, that said, hey, John, you were great, but this company said that my monthly payment was this.
Oh.
And really, the other bank is just quoting a standard tax rate, and then they're going to get hit with the bill later on. And I've gotten those phone calls a year later saying, hey, I can't get a hold of the loan officer that I finished this loan with. Why am I getting $800 more in taxes? Why is my monthly payment going up? And I'm like, well, because of what I told you in the beginning, So again, they're not necessarily bait and switching, but it's just inaccuracies, right? And those inaccuracies are what can really impact monthly payment and comfortability, right?
And your decision to even want to go for
Exactly.
that house.
And for me, I believe in transparency, right? So transparency is going to be like, yep, this is exactly what this is, and this is what the monthly payment is going to be, and ultimately that impacts your decision. I wouldn't want you guys to get into something and then all of a sudden your taxes to jump up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing.
$200-300.
Just because the house fits in your budget, you don't think about the taxes and
Exactly.
everything else that goes with it until later.
And you even told us up front the areas that had higher taxes and
Right.
about the new, what was the tax that you called
New
it?
home build or
No.
it's the special assessments.
Yeah, what was that?
Melrose.
No.
Yeah,
so
Melrose.
no.
Yeah. And we didn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
And so the house we ended up getting was in a high tax area. So it made the payment way higher than we thought, but it was
Right.
still in our budget. But if we didn't know that, that would have been upsetting for us to get.
Something later on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and again, not to toot my own horn, basically,
should,
but but I mean, a good loan officer and anybody that's in this industry, again, like we have a fiduciary responsibility to you guys, right? Like you guys are the one that's making that payment, so we want to make 100% certain that those numbers are going to be in line with your goals, because I don't want you to be like house poor.
Mhm.
Or house rich and cash poor.
Yeah.
Like
you can't afford to enjoy
Yeah.
the home that you have.
exactly, and it's unfortunate because I do see that quite a bit, especially in this industry. It's just it's a matter of taking a look at the numbers, making sure that they work. So
And you remember the phone call that I made to you specifically about that because I
Yeah.
had my colleague who bought a house in the same city as
Yep.
us. Thing happened where they just put in the standard taxes, not the higher taxes, and her mortgage went up like $500.
right,
And I was, oh no. So I called you and I
You
said,
called
John,
me.
is this
I
going to
remember.
happen to
I'm like,
us?
nope, don't worry, we got the tax bill in.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Mhm.
So and again, it just comes down to who you work with,
Which
Like-
is why word of mouth is so important.
right? Because I mean, if I'm getting a ton of leads and they don't know that I'm, I mean, I can show everybody like, oh yeah, here's the actual customer reviews, but all these other people, or if not to bash call center loan officers, but call center loan officers don't know what the heck they're doing. So, and ultimately that comes at a cost to the client, doesn't come at a cost to them. So, like we have fiduciary responsibility to you guys. We want to make sure that you guys are comfortable, that you guys are going to be able to continue to make that monthly payment.
And we're grateful that you didn't let us 4 years ago, 2 years ago,
Get into something
get
we
into a house.
had no business doing.
Yeah.
No. Especially looking at what we've gone through the last 4 years just
Mhm.
financially.
Right.
We couldn't know.
So grateful you did not let us get
All right. Well, that's good.
alone.
Sometimes like I really feel bad because like I don't feel bad, but I feel like sometimes when I have to call and tell a person like, hey, you know what, we got to wait. Like I had to do that twice today. But, ultimately my goal is for something like this to happen where, we wait, we get what we need to do done and then move forward from there. So,
We appreciate that
No,
versus
thank you.
someone just
Definitely.
saying, hey, let's get you in it because you want it.
right.
It's like, telling you don't give a kid what they want
Oh,
just
then
because
it's
they want
2008
it.
all over again.
Yeah, exactly. It is
So-
2008 all
Yeah.
over again. Yeah.
So, no, but once again, I really appreciate you guys coming on board. I'm, to do the podcast and everything else too. I'm very thankful that you guys are now in your new home, and yeah, can't wait for that housewarming party.
We were just talking about that today. When are we going to have
Yeah.
a housewarming party?
That's me self-inviting myself.
Okay.
You'll be there.
Well, we
So, yeah.
do want you over.
Oh, for sure, I'll be there. So anyway, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys tuning into this episode of the Two Mortgage Guys podcast from Temecula, California. And once again, thank you, Mary and Jonah, for coming on and talking about your house buying process. So,
Thank you for having
us.
signing off. Thank you.